All right, peace and greetings, everybody. It's August the 7th, Monday, the year 2017. I just finished reading this book here, Bitter Harvest, Gordon Kahl, and the Posse Comitatus Murder in the Heartland by James Corcoran. And I do recommend you read it. This author is not friendly to Gordon Kahl, but it does give you a background of how the other side thinks. And on the back of the book, there's a quote by, "No farmer I know would shake Gordon Kahl's hand. None would countenance his madness. No American would or should, and yet Gordon Kahl is from the farm and deeply American, one of ours, as Hitler was one of theirs. Such is the awful truth of Jim Corcoran's important, powerful new book. It's a truth that must not only be understood, but dealt with." You see that word Hitler? Anybody who doesn't pay their taxes and calls out the crookedness of the international bankers, crookedness is an understatement. I'm talking about the infiltration and the destruction of America as we know it by the international bankers. Well, you must be Hitler, right? So they liken Gordon Kahl to Hitler on the back of the book. This is a picture of the author. And I think because he believes that Gordon Kahl is a conspiracy theorist, he doesn't relate to the message that Gordon Kahl was putting out. It does give a good history about the foreclosures of the farms and the destruction of the American farms. It talks about how Rudy Giuliani spearheaded the prosecution of Yori Kahl and Scott Fall, and to some extent Joan Kahl, which is Gordon Kahl's wife. On page 150, it quotes the letter that Gordon Kahl supposedly wrote when he was on the run. I recommend you read that, although I've never got confirmation that that is authentic. So there are some pictures in the book. Let's see if I can identify any of these pictures. You've got the shootout scene where the cars were. Kenneth Muir died. I think it was Bob Cheshire. Of course, the lawmen always bond together. There's Gordon Kahl himself. You've got farmers at an auction where they're selling off equipment of one of their fellow farmers and they're selling it back to the banks. That's James Wickstrom. He's still alive today. He defended Gordon Kahl on the Phil Donahue show. This guy here, they said that he was with the Ku Klux Klan. I don't know if that's true or not. This guy right here, he is Ginter. He's the one who gave Kahl his house to stay at and where he was eventually killed. You've got Scott Fall right there, and then right there you've got Yori Kahl, who's both spending life in prison. They're in prison right now as I speak. The military, even though Gordon Kahl had several Purple Hearts and was a war hero, the military refused to give him a military funeral, so his friends did it. And then that's the simple wooden cross at his grave. I did want to read you guys some things. Lynn Crooks was the prosecutor, so he's like the Stephen Scrocky is. Lynn Crooks is, I think it's Lynn Crooks. Let me just, I know it's Crooks, but hold on. Yeah. The prosecutors were Rodney Webb, Lynn Crooks, and Dennis Fisher. But Lynn Crooks, listen to this, because it's always been a really big deal to find out who shot first, right? If you're going to call somebody a violent man, who shot first when the law officers, keep in mind when the law officers pulled over Gordon Kahl and his son and Scott Fall, and also Joan was with them. They were in unmarked cars and they were not wearing police uniforms. So it's always been a big contention about who shot first. Listen to this. I want you guys to think very seriously, because he said this in trial. Lynn Crooks did. He's like the Stephen Scrocky, right? He said Crooks voice trembled with anger as he addressed the issue of who fired first. If Ken Muir did start the shooting, because there is evidence to suggest that. Matter of fact, there was a gun over the heart of Yori Kahl, and Yori Kahl would be dead today if the bullet from Ken Muir's gun did not hit that, the handle, the handle of the gun from what I'm trying to say, and not saying it very well, is that Yori would be dead today if Ken Muir's bullet had not hit the gun, because Yori was wearing a shoulder harness, and the bullet from the lawman, Ken Muir, hit the handle of the gun, and it would have gone into his heart. But listen to this prosecutor. He said, if Ken Muir did start the shooting, so what? That's powerful, because it's evil. He had the right to start shooting the minute those persons got out of the car with their weapons. This guy right here, he is a total idiot, and he's an evil, satanic United States Department of Justice attorney. They have to hire evil people. So he's basically saying that Ken Muir could have shot Gordon Kahl in cold blood and it wouldn't have mattered. Think about the situation with Jeffrey Winehouse. Jeffrey Winehouse got out of his car. Was it okay for Folsom to try to shoot him dead? Jeffrey Winehouse's gun never left his holster. You understand what I'm saying? They think that it's okay to kill American citizens. Now listen to this next statement. Crooks looked over at the defendants. His eyes rested on Yori Kahl. It does my heart good to know Ken at least shot somebody before forfeiting his own life. So what this prosecutor is saying, at least Ken got to shoot one of you before he died. Now, if we turn this around 180 degrees, because this is a prosecutor talking about a lawman and how at least the lawman got to shoot a citizen before he died. How about if I expressed an opinion like that? How about if I expressed an opinion, before you get me, I at least want to take out one of you policemen? That's exactly what he's saying, and he said it before the jury. This was during the trial. It's absolutely horrific how evil these prosecutors are. Let me read that again in case you didn't get it. It does my heart good to know Ken at least shot somebody before forfeiting his own life. And he says that just after that he could have opened fire as soon as he saw the men with guns. So if you have a gun, you're open target for the law officers to shoot you. Absolutely insane the way these prosecutors think. There was another, I think it was an FBI guy. Who's Blay anyway? Let me remind myself who Blay is. B-L-A-Y. He has all the players back here. Give me just a second. Yeah, here we go. Richard Blay was an FBI agent who was in charge of the nearly 4-month search for Kahl. So this is the FBI agent who was in charge of searching for Gordon Kahl when he was on the run. Blay was angered and embarrassed by the fact that the lawman deliberately set the house on fire. It didn't matter that the officers feared Kahl had donned a gas mask and hidden in a corner of the house. Anytime law officers set a place on fire when there is a person trapped inside would lead to real problems, speculated Blay. We are more professional than that. We don't want to be put in the same category as them. They are the killers, he said later. There is no way to justify it. Nor were Blay's fears assuaged by the knowledge that law informant's public statement was that the tear gas had accidentally started the fire. The truth would come out, and when it did, the lawmen would appear to be liars, as well as vigilantes gone amok. All in all, thought Blay, the operation reflected badly on law enforcement. Within days of the shootout, press conferences were called by leaders of various extremist groups around the country. As Blay expected, the conferences were used to depict Kahl as a martyr and the government as rabid, mad dog executioners. Yeah, that's absolutely right. He goes on to talk about other people that, said some things about Kahl. It was a charge that would resurface and assume more credibility 11 months later when the Arkansas Democrat, a Little Rock newspaper... All right, well, I got a phone call and it cut my phone off. I hate it when that happens. I should remember to turn my phone on airplane mode. But this whole idea that Gordon Kahl and the law officer shot themselves at the same time is ridiculous. And the newspaper based its conclusions on the autopsy reports that it was unlikely that Kahl and Matthews killed each other. It's more likely that the government killed both of them, and because Matthews would not go along with the assassination of Gordon Kahl, they killed one of their own too in order to cover up the story, which I totally believe. People don't quite understand how evil our government is, and how evil the FBI is, and how evil the Department of Justice is. And it also goes through Gordon Kahl's funeral, and it talks about the topic that the preacher preached on at the funeral. So I think that Gordon Kahl was a man of integrity, honesty, character. He fought for his country. He loved his country. He was a true patriot in the line of our founding fathers. And he stood up for what he thought was right. And he was murdered by the government because of it. And I think that the FBI, the Department of Justice, are some of the most satanic organizations in the history of the world. That's what I think. I recommend you read this book. I've got like 4 or 5 more books on Gordon Kahl. Every time I finish one, I will do a book report. Take care and God bless.